Today, we'll be talking about the history of post-credit scenes. So let's start off with the basics of what a post-credit scene is. A post-credit scene is something, it doesn't have to be a certain scene, but it can be a sound or a song or an event that happens after the movie is over. So once the credits start rolling, it can also be during the credits whenever it happens, but just a little bit of history, just so we don't go in here blind. The first movie to have color, most people know, is Wizard of Oz. Never seen it, but that's a point. Was made in 1939. So the first end credit scene was the movie Silencers, which is a parody of James Bond in 1966. So you might be thinking, oh, James Bond movie, it has to be something like, oh, James Bond like supposedly was dead. No, it's legit just him with women like spinning around in a circle. Y'all are watching the scene right now. So like, what? Come on now. The Muppets in 1971 got their own movie, and they had a post-credit scene, which was the first wall break, if I'm not mistaken, where they just straight up Animal, or one of the Muppets, says to go home. Go home! Go home! And, which honestly, pretty creative. And then there was at least 6 other movies that had post-credit scenes before the Muppets, but they were just movies that weren't that popular. So it was just like indie movies, but the Muppets is just like most people know about like Kermit, Miss Piggy, and everything like that. So Airplane is a pretty good movie. It was released in 1980. It has Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He also has a post-credit scene, which is kind of funny because Silencers is a parody movie and Airplane is a parody movie. Them to both have end credit scenes is kind of funny, but this end credit scene was different from everything else because it was just continuing a running gag, which honestly is kind of cool.
Well, I'll give him another 20 minutes, but that's it.
But no other movie did this, so it was like post-credit scenes weren't being used that much, which I don't know if it was that the audience was just like, I'm not staying here, I don't care about who wrote it or anything like that. Young Sherlock Holmes, that was released in 1985, was the first ever Marvel post-credit scene. So all it is just a character that was thought to be dead came back into the movie under a new name, which is definitely something Marvel would do. But really, nobody really used it. Like, that's before its time in comparison to everything else. Where it's either bloopers, breaking the fourth wall, or just Airplane being different, continuing of a joke. Which, honestly, good for them. And then Alien is the first post-credit scene that was not a scene, it was just a post-credit. So it is just a facehugger sound, so it's like, oh, so the facehuggers are still on the ship. So it just kind of lets you know, oh, they're coming back. So probably the most famous post-credit scene is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And it's just him yelling at the audience to go home. But
you're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.
Like, I don't understand on why it was referenced so much, because I feel like a lot of people think that's the first ever fourth wall break, but we already saw in 1971 the Muppets did it. So Angel Heart at an end credit scene was kind of like the Young Sherlock Holmes, but it's a little bit different. There's not a whole lot of payoff. If you stay there, it's just like, oh, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. So it is just the character going to heaven or hell, and then you hear other characters' names. Other characters' names are whispered whenever they go up and down. So it's just kind of like, oh, okay, so that's where they are. So it's not, you don't have to watch it, but I feel like for Young Sherlock Holmes, you need to see that. So Super Mario Bros. The movie. 1993, not the new one. So honestly, this end credit scene is hindsight's 2023. It is hilarious due to the fact of them setting it up for a sequel and them not making enough money for a sequel. So it is essentially the Koopalings being introduced, and it's truly funny because like they were expecting to make bank and everything like that. No, they lost money.
Well, I must say we have a very exciting proposal.
A video game based on your many adventures.
What would you call it?
Iggy's World.
The Indomitable Spike.
The Super Koopa Cousins.
So Street Fighter did the exact same thing. Essentially, it wasn't exactly. Street Fighter did something like that. It didn't have Koopalings because, yeah, it just had other characters. And honestly, it's truly funny on how the 90s is just associated with those type of movies where it's like, oh, they're expecting so much money, but they don't. So they try to set it up for like a. I just realized, like, this is their first attempt at the cinematic universe. Like, this is crazy. But Chain Reaction 1995, honestly, has mixed emotions because I have never seen the movie, but it has Keanu Reeves. But the post-credit scene is possibly the lamest or coolest because it's just an explosion. So it might be a humongous payoff, or it's just like that was never spoken of in the movie. Why did it happen? George of the Jungle 1997. It just is. I feel like this one is like this post-credit scene is they go into the future and just like tied everyone off. So I feel like it's not really needed, but it's helpful as you have it. So with Snake Eyes, it's a thriller unless one of the characters' death happened during the end credit scene, which truly is probably a bad thing because I have a feeling that not a lot of people stayed after the credits because before 2008 with the whole Marvel stuff, nobody stayed after, and there was no reason to because not a whole lot of things happened. But back then, the Rugrats movie, honestly, like childhood, so much nostalgia for it. I have the VHS tape up in the cabinet right now. It's orange and it's so great, honestly. But this post-credit scene is like one of the only ones that can happen. So the post-credit scene is not Uncle Pickle, but like their grandpa is in a baby carriage and goes down the hill. So that never gets resolved in the movie. They actually bring that into the TV show. So truly, they're creative. They like know what they could do because nobody else could do it. Which truly, props for them, honestly. And then Bug's Life was a spoof type thing of post-credit scenes because it is just made of bloopers. A lot of these movies that I have not named that have post-credit scenes just are bloopers. And bloopers aren't really needed, but it's just kind of like, oh, these people are human. It's just to see like relatability on how many times they like messed up. So the Blue Brothers 2000, which was released in 1998, is where they perform a song, a James Brown song, which truly is funny due to the fact that it's James Brown. James Brown was popping off in the 60s, and this movie takes place in the 90s, but that's besides the point. Star Wars The Phantom Menace has Darth Vader breathing, which is another type of alien post-credit scene, which truly is really funny. And then Stuart Little post-credit scene, it's just Stuart Little's post-credit scene really kind of sets it up so like nothing really happened in the movie. So it's like it really makes you think. So like for example, like the Butterfly Effect movie, I've heard that like makes you think, and so many conspiracy theories come out of that movie. So, like, yeah, make sure that you watch for part 2 because that's going to be more post-credit scenes.